My dad, trans, has discovered how to beat transphobes in the South. Someone said this should go here. We're currently in the South visiting family. When we were at a restaurant, my dad, FTM, had to go to the bathroom. I'm still not entirely sure how, but a guy in there determined that he was trans and went shouting to the barman to kick my dad out. My dad, instead of trying to win that argument in a bar full of Southerners, decided to go the complete other direction. He channeled his inner Southern righteous fury and went off on that man for accusing him of being a transgender, demanded he be kicked out, and called the guy an agent of Satan. Long story short, it worked. Got the other guy and his family kicked out, and got a free beer for his troubles. I thought this sub would appreciate that. Edit. I should mention that my dad has been trans for 45 years and is the most passing person you've ever met. That's why I say I'm not sure how. Unless the guy straight up looked over the stall door, there's no way to tell. I got revenge on my bully. In school, I was relentlessly bullied. Two girls in particular had it out for me. I was shy, loved to read, didn't do the popular stuff, so I was the perfect victim. They'd literally torture me by holding me down in the staircase when we were alone and sticking pinboard pins into my arms, legs and feet. When I tried to tell teachers, they said it fell onto them as they were lying on the floor or I did it myself. It didn't help that one of them was the daughter of one of the teachers at the school. Well, I finally got my revenge. I went to try out a new ice cream shop and lo and behold, one of the girls was serving the ice cream. I have multiple allergies including milk and gluten, of which the ice cream shop claimed to be cautious. So I ordered gluten and dairy-free ice cream and set my phone camera up to film the area where the ice cream was prepared because I saw that the girl had recognized me and was certain she'd try something. And shedded. I caught her on camera putting a spoonful of milk in the bottom of the bowl and crumbling the gluten-consisting wafers over everything, the end camo flagging it with the last scoop of ice cream. She put it down in front of me and said, "I hope you enjoy it." I sweetly smiled at her and asked if she could get the owner of the shop because I wanted to thank her for being so welcoming to guests with allergies. You can guess what happened next. I showed the owner the video and told her that I'd like to press charges, because in my country it is considered a criminal offense called inflicting bodily harm, to serve someone an allergen when you know the person's allergic. The bully will never work anywhere where she'll come in contact with food again and she'll have this on her criminal record for years. Ex lies during divorce to have me jailed and instead he is left with remorse. Came across this sub today and thought I have the perfect story to add. I was getting divorced in the early 90s. My ex was cis that I was divorcing him. I owned the house prior to the marriage so he moved out, but he broke back in and tore up all kinds of things, tore up my jewelry, my clothes, he cut holes in all of them, etc. I couldn't prove it, but of course it was him. When we went to divorce court, he gave the judge a page list of things that he supposedly brought to the house with him prior to marriage, that I refused to return. My attorney showed me the list and it was stuff that he never owned in the first place. He totally wanted me thrown in jail for contempt of court. My alternative ways to pay like $2,000 and I wasn't about to do that. I am opted for jail, but my friends kept telling me just to pay it. I refused. 2 days before I was to appear in court, a girlfriend of mine asked if she could see the list. Sure. She noted that things he said were there didn't give much if any of it a description. For example, he says there's a gun. He didn't say what kind of gun. He said there was a computer and he didn't say what kind of computer, and so on. Her point was that if I went around and bought everything on the list, it would probably cost me about $200 and that was worth staying out of jail. I agreed, knowing it would also be worth him being livid that his plan didn't work, so I made a game of it. I went around to on shops and resale stores, and I told whoever was in charge there that I was on a scavenger hunt, and I briefly explained what was going on. They all loved the idea and helped me get through my list rather quickly. Here are some lovely examples of what was boxed up for him. Gun, an old rusty cap gun screwdriver set, same old and rusty clothing, Goodwill hoard stuff, bust, statue, made one myself from clay knives, old and rusty camping gear, an old pan, matches and a tiny tarp. And one of my favorites that I remember was, he said he had a Monopoly game. So I sent him a Goodwill find without any of the pieces, just the board. I wish I could remember everything that we got. It was so much fun, and when we got home, we had to videotape boxing them all up and going through the items one by one. My attorney told the judge that he had found at the attic and I just hadn't seen it before. So sorry. The judge told my attorney to simply drop the box off at his attorney's office, and that the divorce was final. My only regret is not being able to see his face when he opened up that box of garbage. And there was nothing he could say because he made the stuff up in the first place. It's been 30 years and I still get joy thinking about it. Husband who dumped me now pays me not to file for divorce. My husband of 25 years decided he wanted to split up. I unsuccessfully begged him to change his mind, and spent a lot of nights crying on the bathroom floor. One thing to note is that I carried the health insurance for the family. He is self-employed. When he wouldn't change his mind, we filed for legal separation and he moved out. In the meantime, I got a bangin' new job that covers 100% of the health and dental insurance premiums for the entire family, with a $100 deductible. Sweet. He is still allowed to be on my insurance, since we're legally separated rather than divorced, and it costs me nothing to have him on my insurance. But I am petty as hell. So I charge him $400 a month for something that costs me $0. He of course is welcome to get insurance on his own in the marketplace, which would probably cost at least 2x that amount for an equivalent policy. I make sure he knows it costs me nothing, nada, zip to have him on my insurance, and that his $400 per month payment is funding my upcoming trip to Spain. If you have a legal separation, getting a divorcee in my state is just a matter of filing a form and paying $60. If I did that, he couldn't be on my insurance anymore. So he is basically paying me $400 a month not to file for divorce, after not wanting to be married anymore. I love it. Edited to respond to comments. This approach was approved by my family law attorney, my estate attorney, his attorney, my health insurance company, and my employer. So if you know better than all those parties combined, have at it. I reported the income to the IRS. People who say things like, but what about alimony, clearly don't understand how any of this works. I can't look at comments anymore, just too many. Boyfriend was wrongfully towed from our complex, I got revenge. About a year ago my boyfriend was towed from our apartment complex lot. I guess they didn't look for his parking permit before deciding to tow him in the middle of the night. After he explained it to the leasing office, they called the company and told them to release his car at no charge. When he showed up to claim his car, the employee spit in his face, threatened to call the cops if he didn't pay up, and this whole ordeal ended up costing him $250 plus lost wages. He called me to tell me all this when he finally made it to work, and I flipped my shit. My mom always taught me that sometimes you have to be a real BTCH to get things done, and first time in my life I decided to be a bit of a Karen. For context, the company that owns our apartment complex also owns hundreds in this area, and they have a contract with this towing company for most of their properties. After figuring this out, I called the main office for the company that owns our apartment, and eventually got transferred to the owner. She was absolutely appalled at what happened, and told me she would call them and give me updates. In the meantime, I called the tow company and chewed them out so bad they initially hung up on me until I called a second time and asked to speak to whoever was in charge. The manager told me he would review security footage and get back to me. After I spoke to the tow company, the leasing company called me back and said that they're at the end of their rope with the sheer amount of mistakes this tow company has made, and their contract was in jeopardy. They mentioned they're working on getting a refund, and to document if there was any damage to the vehicle. The manager of the towing company called me back moments later, apologized, and offered to hand-deliver a check for the full refund amount. I haven't seen their tow trucks in our lot ever since. I spent $5,000 plus to inconvenience and embarrass a competitor who treated me like crap. It was worth it. So I used to run a small business, Wedding Space, and I was very successful in a very short period of time. To the point that I was getting all expense-paid invites to industry conferences less than 6 months after I opened. Needless to say, this ruffled feathers. Enter Kate. Kate is a chief Karen who competes in the same space and has been nothing but awful to me from the moment she became aware that I wasn't just competition, I was doing better business than her. She would complain that I had gotten expenses paid, implied that it was because I was pretty, said Thatch felt people who had been in the space longer deserved it more, and a vaguely racist statement about how my outfit colors don't look good on dark-skinned people. She also reported my booth for. I gave my ex-fiancé back the ring 10 years ago. He's still furious. Recently I, 31F, celebrated my birthday. As I moved across the country a few years ago, my besties back home and I had a video party together drinking some wine. It was a grand old time, and eventually talk turned nostalgic and one of the gal Pauls brings up running into my ex-fiancé. We all reveled in the classic story and one of them said to post here for giggles. So, to begin this saga we need to turn the clock back a decade when I, 21 at the time, was dating and then engaged to X, 32 meters at the time. Hindsight, the age gap was the first red flag among many other flags he waved like an entire color guard in a high school band. Like him making much more than me, but I, in welding school full-time and working 2 jobs paid for everything. After 6 months of being engaged I found out he was cheating with an ex of his, so naturally I called it quits. In a petty move not related to the story, she ended up being my roommate for 3 years, pretty cool chick who I'm still friends with. A few months pass and when it's obvious I'm not coming back, X starts a rabid campaign to get his Amazon bought $190 ring back. Mind you, I'm still school full-time and working, so dropping the cheap O-ring off was not at the top of my priorities. Eventually I got tired of the harassment, so I gave the ring back. And then some. I sheared some 1/2 thick steel plates, welded up a cube, dropped that ring in there, then welded that puppy shut. If you shook the cube, you could hear a delightful tink 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 of it rattling inside. I dropped it in the mail and went on my merry way and hadn't given it another thought until my birthday this month. According to Gal Pal X, still has the cube and has not been able to get the Amazon ring out. He's still mad as heck and likes to rant about the ordeal to this day. I regret nothing and am filled with joy knowing I've been irritating him for 10 years now. Locked my ex out of his PlayStation account right after he renewed his subscription. When my ex and I broke up, he owed me about £1,500. He paid off his credit card debt. We had agreed it would be repaid no matter what, even if we broke up. Well, shocker, that went out the window after I left him, as he claimed he couldn't afford to give me anything at all. Along with this, he kept almost all of our shared possessions and returned my TV to me broken in, without any cables. The PlayStation was a gift from me when we had first got together, and he set up his new PlayStation account using my email address, and I hadn't thought about it since. Yesterday I received an email informing me of my purchase of a PlayStation Plus year subscription. I've logged into the account, set up two-factor authentication with my friend's number, and remotely signed out all devices. He's got me blocked on most platforms and vice versa, so I probably won't get hear about it, but I'm still satisfied as hell. Edit. Vice versa.